we do, in my opinion, need a majority of the entire board. Does that mean that it has to be at a monthly, regularly scheduled meeting? No.
We can do it
We
any
could have
time.
a special meeting, or we could do an electronic vote, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
Yeah.
knowing that
doesn't-
we can do procedural things through the email, I guess that would be another solution.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we're saying tonight we're proposing this amendment,
Mm.
and we're gonna publish this to all board members. And then next meeting in September, if we have all board members here, or if they've signified electronically prior to the meeting, then we can motion this motion, or proposal.
Yes, I think that's a, yes, go ahead.
Do you
Kim.
think you should read it into the record so that everybody who watches it on video knows what it is?
Sure.
That you're talking about?
And can I just ask
Yes.
a question? We're going to strike, in the article, we're going to strike the paragraph under the 8 items that are listed, strike that sentence and then replace it with this paragraph.
Right, let's see, let me just go to, yes, so Article 6 will read in its entirely, all the way down to item 8, where it says annual calendar, and then the next sentence, which begins, the chair of the Board of Finance shall coordinate with the town's director of finance and the first selectman to ensure delivery of these materials. So in lieu of that sentence comes this amendment, suggested drafted amendment.
So we are not striking the 8 items that are listed.
Correct.
No.
We're striking the sentence after the
The
8
sentence
items.
after it.
Right.
Yeah, again, the idea being, let's do a little bit more than just deliver the materials. So that's what this tries to achieve,
Okay,
so.
any more discussion?
Yes, I will tell you that I am not able to make the September meeting. I will be out of the country. So if you would like this vote to be taken electronically, that is what I would suggest, sooner rather than later, because that would only leave the October meeting for everybody to be present before the elections in November. And we would want this in place before the new members are seated on the board. So that's just my,
Which takes place in January.
pardon?
Which takes place in January, so we could have,
December, does it take?
I thought January
I
January,
remember a first meeting of December.
that's usually
Yeah.
waived. I mean, it's usually canceled the December meeting.
November's
The
canceled.
new members get seated right after the election.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
meeting, it's a December meeting, and it even refers to that in the
Yes,
bylaw.
somewhere in
It's
here.
in December.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna target a 9/11. I hate that date.
Mm.
Can it be that anyone that doesn't plan to attend the September meeting could submit their vote electronically prior to the meeting?
We could, or we could just have everybody vote prior to the meeting, not knowing who's gonna be here and who's not gonna be here. I think we'll have to try to see if we're gonna have a quorum for the September meeting. I thought I was gonna be out of the country this week, and I think I'm probably gonna be out of the country that week, but I'm not sure yet. So I'll send out a note, or you can send out a note to make sure that there's gonna be a quorum, and everybody's available on the 9/11 meeting. And if we do have, go ahead.
It won't matter if there's a quorum. Everybody has to be present to vote, or everybody has to electronically vote. There has to be 6 votes to adopt a change in our bylaws.
Yeah.
6 voting members have to have each one vote for it to get passed.
Mhm.
So 4 out of 6 members need to vote in favor of the change
Mhm.
for it to be adopted. It's not a majority of the quorum.
Mhm.
No, all I was saying is if we're not gonna have a quorum, then we'd have to do it electronically.
Yeah, I mean.
If we're not gonna have a full board in September, we have to do it electronically. And we are,
Since we know we're not gonna have a full board, then we have to do it electronically.
we should,
Because you're not gonna be available, so that means we're not gonna have a full board, so we have to do it electronically.
We
I
should
got
do it electronically, yes.
I got it. Okay.
Okay.
So with that said, would you like for me, so I have the bylaws in Word,
Mhm.
and then I'll make the change, and I can email a copy to all the board members.
Mhm.
However, someone needs to coordinate with Mr. Pizzaglia because he does not do email communication. He just doesn't.
Okay.
So,
What'd he do?
I'll send him a text.
Okay.
I mean, I think he would do it if he knew the importance of it. He would specifically, I mean, when the email comes out, I'll go knock on his door. And if that's what you're asking me to do, I'll do that.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Any other discussions on the bylaw amendment before us?
The only, just so that we're all clear what the next steps are going to be. Anna's going to revise the document, distribute it to the entire 6 members, and ask for a vote electronically. So every member on the board has to say, yes, I'm in favor, no, I'm not. Anna will collect those votes. And does that make it formal enough to be accepted, or do we discuss it at the October?
It would have to be entered in the public record, so at the next meeting, we can enter the electronic votes into the public record.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if we want
Okay.
copies of the email, and everybody can take their email, and you can attach them, and we can send them to the meeting minutes.
Perfect,
Mhm.
perfect.
Yeah.
Sounds like an electronic record, and whoever's at the meeting can concur that, yes, that's what I said. Okay,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
If there's nothing else on that,
Do you
CRN,
want us to read it so everybody
Oh, yes.
knows
Oh,
what it
so-
is?
I could read it. I'll read
I mean,
it.
it's this
Okay.
nebulous thing.
Okay. So this is a draft amendment to Article 6, Paragraph 2 of the bylaws of the Board of Finance. And it reads as follows. With the assistance of the Finance Director, the Chair of the Board of Finance shall ensure delivery of these materials to newly elected members as soon as possible following their election. The Chair shall also determine and appoint current board members who wish to mentor newly elected members. Mentors shall arrange for at least one orientation session before new members are seated. The orientation shall focus on identifying agenda items and documentation expected to typically come before the board. Mentors shall thereafter make themselves available to new members whom they are assisting on an as-needed basis through the ensuing budget season.
I can give you a copy of this.
I have,
Oh, okay,
I've
okay.
submitted it, I've attached it, those
Yeah.
are
Okay.
I think.
So
Yes.
whether this gets moved or not, I'm gonna be looking for volunteers to mentor the new people, because this board is the people that are gonna be setting up the mentors for the next people. So whether or not this gets accepted or not, or amended or
Yeah.
not, we all know it's a good thing to
Right.
do. So
I know.
if you'd like to be a mentor for one of the new board members, let me know. All right, CNRE. CRNE is not ready for this meeting. We'll talk about it in September?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to table the CRNE until the September meeting. Audit comments.
So I put in your green folders, what we plan to do to stay on top of the audit comments. The one item, the purchase orders and the invoices, that was a comment for both the town and the Board of Education. I will note that I did touch base with Mariana, and I do have comments from her that I did not have the opportunity to incorporate into what I prepared for you this evening, so I'll just kind of discuss them and then I can update that for you. So typically, when we're once the audit is done, and this just seems to be something that we're not able to get rid of, and it's always somebody different. I will say that when we have department head meetings here at the town hall now, Mark is emphasizing the importance of this with the department heads here on the town side. And I will say, it's been interesting, since the beginning of the year, I've actually heard employees that have maybe not been so good at getting their purchase orders done before they go out and make expenditures, actually coming in to question our accounts payable specialists on what they're supposed to do. So I think
Okay.
the, you know, people are starting to get it better, so I would expect for us to, you know, for the current year that we're in, to be much better with it. I did speak with Mariana, and on the board side, they have some type of a staff development day in August away from their facilities. They do it off-site, and she did go over this with all the department heads at the schools and with the principals of the schools on their side. So hopefully we'll see improvement on both sides for this year that we're working in now.
Yeah. The, I'd say that, just to point out, and I'm sure, you know, we're all aware of it, but there's 2 sections in the purchasing policy that are absolutely crystal clear on, you know, having your purchasing policy in place, then you're invoiced, and then you're paid. So basically, there's no contract, there's no agreement in the absence of that purchase order. The purchase order becomes a contract once it's accepted
Right.
by the vendor for a good or a service. So, yeah, and there's definitely no payment to be made. So the purchasing policy is really clear and could definitely just be, you know, referred to. I think if I'm not mistaken, in the auditor did suggest that we think about the like additional training sessions. So it might be just something that has to just be repeated, you know, with new personnel, and just a reminder that, you know, you don't have a contract and you won't have payment. Yeah.
Or maybe you'll be personally responsible for it.
Oh, boy.
Exactly. And this is what my next comment was going to be. Everything that you just said this evening, Anna, I heard July of 2018.
Mhm.
We're working on it. It's getting better. People have a better understanding of the policy. And yet the finding surfaces again. Until people are held accountable, nothing's going to change. So that's where I get back to. Everybody has a job description. Everybody has performance objectives. If part of their performance objective is to follow the purchasing policy correctly, and they don't, they should not be getting the same increase across the board. They need to be accountable for that, not meeting objectives. And I've said it 100 times before, and nothing seems to change. So I'm not really sure how we can get that to change until a first selectman is, and I'm sorry that Mark is not here tonight, can begin to understand and accept that philosophy and implement it.
I agree that it's problematic. The only thing in my mind that's perhaps a little more positive is that when this audit is, again, looking in arrears, you know, it's behind us. It's that year behind. So it's 17-18, not 18-19. And we adopted the purchasing policy in October of 2018. And that's when I think, I mean, having, and Bill can attest to this as well, as having been involved in the writing of this policy, you know, and discussions and meetings, you know, it's clear that, you know, it was something, you know, there was definitely policy adhered to, but putting things in writing and really being specific, I think, makes a difference. And as from, you have said, Anna, it has made a difference so far, but you'll find that the occasional errant, you know, person who just isn't on board. But it sounds more positive than not. But I do think that, you know, when I first saw it again in the audit report, I thought, oh no. But then I'm thinking, let me remember that it is that previous year, and we did adopt the policy in October. So, you know, there's still that gap time. I mean, what I guess you wouldn't want to see is next year you really.
But we have seen it for several years in a row.
Right, before that. I agree with you. I mean,
and we have addressed it.
Yeah.
Several years in a row.
Even without a policy in place. I agree with you there. Yeah, absolutely. But I think having that policy that you can, oh, here's the document, here it is, and section 4 and 5, it's section 4 completely, and section 5B are very specific on this topic, and clear as the nose on your face. So, I
So
think
what-
that's a good thing. But I do think, I did agree with the auditor's recommendation that we do more training sessions of some kind. And maybe it's Board of and that was my other question, is Board of Education kind of creating their own document based on our document at this point? I never have heard I haven't heard the
Well,
follow-up.
they do have,
Initially, they said they
Yes.
were gonna take our policy under advisement and incorporate it as they see appropriate or some other vague generality.
but they also, in Mary Ann's notes to me, she did indicate that she's going to review their policy in general. This, in addition to
Okay.
having met with all the department heads at the board as well as the principals and
Yeah.
went over it.
So my perception is we don't have as many occurrences as we have in the past. We're doing better, but we're not doing as good as we could do. So get training and mentoring and
Reminders.
things like that should increase the conformance, and non-conformance is unacceptable. As far as the reports being late, I'll reiterate what I said last year, is the summertime's a great time to get a intern, a college kid that wants to, do finances and comes and works for close to minimum wage, but has motivation and skills to do the job. So as you're saying that people are out this time of year, but this is when the college kids are available. So if we don't have a process where we can hire interns, I think we should look at hiring interns. Where I work, we hire lots of interns, and they spend the summer highly motivated because it goes in their resume, and they can, years coming, especially
Well-
rising juniors and rising seniors, they're highly motivated and they're low cost and they do a good job.
Don't we have an intern in the tax department for the summer?
I'm not so
John's.
sure that I would classify them as the individuals that we get in the summer as an intern as just
Temps.
more like a temp employee that we get for the summer. And they are typically college students that we do typically have for 4 or 5 years consecutively. And they work in both the tax and the assessment office.
So year over year, as you have these summer crunches, it's something I think you can address.
Think
Although
about
I
it.
understand the software is going to make everything better. Right, the new software is going to make all these reports automated and everything else.
We're gonna be more efficient, we'll have more capabilities, so.
I struggle when we have the same problem over and over and over again that we don't address it. And reports being late are the kind of thing that we know when the reports are due. We know we're going to be crushed because people are out on vacation. Okay, any other questions about the audit?
Yes. The second paragraph, communication, effective two-way communication between our firm and the Board of Finance is important to understanding matters related to the audit and developing a constructive working relationship. What would the auditors like, what kind of relationship would they like to have with this board?
So
We
what I,
see them once a year.
so my recommendation would be, they're due to come in the beginning of November. So my recommendation to the board would be to have him come to the November meeting, because at that point they'll have been in, and then he can give an assessment of like, okay, this is good, we have everything we need, so we should be able to move through this and get our report filed on time.
Do they charge more for that?
That is going to be, part of the overall service of the audit, but I.
So he's not just trying to drum up more business?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So should there be a Board of Finance member present when they come in November and do their work? So,
I don't think so.
no.
Because, I don't think,
Should the chairman have a direct line of communication with the auditor?
I can speak with, with them on that.
So if there's questions and concerns that come up throughout the year, at least there's some line of communication between the board and the auditor. I think that would be helpful.
I can certainly.
And through our monthly meetings, we would be able to make our concerns known to the chairman or whoever the chairman designates to take on that role. But, I certainly understand them coming to the November meeting as well as the year-end meeting, but it seems to me that's still not enough to make effective change. That's just my humble opinion.
So in the event that the board felt that it was something that we need more exposure to, then we could increase the amount of exposure that we have to the auditor. My personal opinion is these audits say that we're doing well. There's things that we can do better. There's always things we can do better. I don't see anything in here that seems like it's a challenge. I think we know that we need to do better at getting our paperwork done. We know that that includes both purchase orders as well as getting our reports finished on time. And we've been told that for quite a number of years running. I think if we sit down with the auditor, we could review the last audit and see if there's anything we could review in this meeting in November and sit with him in November and say, here's concerns that we had about the last audit, and we want to hear from you but we had that conversation a couple weeks ago. So, in the event that the board as a whole feels that there's a need for more communications, that's fine, we can increase communications. I personally don't think there is. Comments?
I have a different, a couple of other items. Are you going
Can we-
list by list?
I want to talk about the whole communications thing that Camille
Okay.
brought up. Do you
Okay.
feel that we need more communications with the auditors?
I would say it might be beneficial somewhere at that midpoint, to have some sort of a connection, something that happens in the months prior to us hearing the auditor's report. So if there's anything that needs to be flagged or, it would be helpful. But I don't think it needs to be ongoing because, if, this board, because of the seriousness of what it does, could, be lending a hand everywhere with every department and and going to every meeting. But I think that, there could be at least one kind of a, meeting or communication, if need be, checking in both ways, us to the auditor, auditor to us, and just, it may just be helpful so that there's no surprises as we, come to hear our report.
Yeah, and as I said, they're scheduled to come out. They were just here doing preliminary field work last week, and they're scheduled to come in the first week of November. So at that time, whoever the lead person is here, they will have all of our documentation, and so if we were to have Mr. Bassett come to the November meeting, I think he would be in a good position at that point to say, okay, we have everything we need, we just have to go through it, so we, things will work out, we'll meet our schedule this year. To have them come in before that wouldn't make sense because they wouldn't be here to do the field work and have all the items, so.
I don't know if when he talked to us, he talked to us last month or whatever it was, if he talks to us next month or November, I don't know if he would talk about what he's going to do in a different vein than talking about what he did. And that would be my only, kind of, if we could tell him what our areas of concern or what corners we wanted him to look in or something. It does feel like it would be a different conversation than the closeout report. Your comments, Jen?
I agree with Ann. I think the dialogue with him in November would be enlightening.
Okay.
And we can probably, he can give us more information on the process and why some of these things keep lingering on from year to year. My question to you is, as far as this purchasing policy, when somebody's not adhering to it, whose responsibility is it to take them aside and say, look, you have to do this, adhere to the policy? I mean,
So, when something comes to my attention, I go to the department head and, you know, work with them and have them go to their employees. I mean, so last week, as part of the, one of the samples that was pulled, they select their samples however it is they do it, and then we have to get all the records together and give it to them. And of course there was something that was paid last fiscal year with an invoice from 2016. So it's like, okay, this is a very good start. And what happened there is a vehicle was repaired and it was being transferred between Public Works actually gave the vehicle to Water or Sewer Department, and so the Public Works employees at the time was thinking that Water and Sewer should pay it, and Water and Sewer was like, this isn't our vehicle, we're not paying it, didn't get paid. And when it was brought to our attention, it did get paid.
Way past the.
Way past the
So
date.
who paid it? Water and sewer?
It was paid by the Sewer Department.
But
Mr.
wouldn't-
McGraw made the decision. It said, because the departments were still arguing over who
Right.
should pay it.
Oh,
And
boy.
it was like, Joe said, the vehicle went to sewer, sewer's gonna pay it, so we charged
so
the sewer
whoever had the
budget.
title.
But I would think that finance would say there's no valid invoice, so we can't do this, we gotta put an invoice in place.
For, what, a current invoice?
Yeah,
We do that. In that instance, that didn't happen.
yeah.
But
So I think some
because
of
the
this-
auditors, that was one of their selections, we had to respond to them and explain to them why it happened.
I guess what I'm implying is that you and your staff are first-line auditors, right? So as you see this activity, I would expect you to say, okay, but that's not the way we do this. We
Right.
need to not charge against an old invoice, we need to create a new one.
And we do that with
Yeah.
departments. If you want us to pay it, this is what we need. You
Yep.
go deal with it.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I have on that.
Okay. So Ann, you said you had other things you wanted to go through?
Yeah, let's see, on the, capital asset disposal policy. So, yeah, that's been kind of lingering. We had drafted something, in one of the original drafts of the purchasing policy had a section called, disposition of surplus property. So maybe that could be the basis of what's created, and I'd be happy to work with you whenever you're, want to get that underway or something. That's fine, because I don't think it has to be so elaborate, but maybe we could discuss. But I recall going
We
to
had it.
other municipalities to
Yep.
figure that out, and we had it in the original document, and then the feeling was maybe we need to have that in a
A
separate
separate document.
which
yeah.
is
So it was
fine.
pulled from the purchasing
Yeah,
document, because
so
that
we-
wasn't a purchasing
yeah.
policy.
So that's definitely, I think, certainly a foundation for what you might be needing. So that's something there. And then I see some of these other things are Board of Education items. I wasn't, the time card approval issue, so that was just Board of Education and not town side as well, or?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. So in each of those situations, again, generally speaking, Mariana took the opportunity to review that with the staff that met off-site.